Hey, welcome into the show. Hope everything is going well for you on this particular weekend. I am Steve West. That is Matt Nicholson.
Good morning.
Producer John Myers back there trying to get our YouTube feed up and running. That's something of an interesting
Don't
situation
touch
for
that
us.
dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back.
Your electric cooperative genuinely cares about the...
Something of an interesting situation for us this morning as we've got kind of a new system,
Yeah.
and it's not really cooperating with John.
You can say that again.
So hopefully we'll have the YouTube feed up and running here fairly shortly. In the meantime, thank you for checking us out, whether you're on 95.1 FM in and around East Central Alabama or checking us out on the 95.1 The Mountain app, which, by the way, if you don't have it, you can get it. It's for iPhones, for Android. Feel free to go ahead and download it. You can listen to us literally anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So take us wherever you happen to be going.
That's right.
Trying to fix the microphone. Excuse me. All right. We got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get things running here, and we'll start off with recap last weekend, start off on Wednesday specifically, where Noah Gragson, he'd tell you that 2021 was a bit of a hard luck year. He missed out on several wins that if it weren't for bad luck, he would have nailed down. 2022 started on a somewhat better, if still winless note. At least he wasn't having the technical or mechanical or tire issues that he had with only a few laps to go that seemed to happen practically all last year.
Yeah.
It seemed to happen a good bit, but this year, even though victory lane still eluded him, again, pretty good start to the year. He was third at Daytona, finished second at both Auto Club and Las Vegas before he broke through at Phoenix. Gragson barely missed claiming the first segment. He was edged up by Trevor Bayne. He was well ahead claiming the second stage. Third stage was a green flag pit stop affair that saw a gamble from Brandon Jones. He was short pitting. When all the cycles went through, Jones had a little bit more than a 1 second lead, but Gragson had the car to beat, and he started to just reel Jones in lap by lap. 13 laps to go. Caught and passed him, rolls on to the whim. Jones settles for second. Josh Berry third. Trevor Bayne was fourth. Then you got John Hunter Nemechek running in the Xfinity Series. Ty Gibbs, A.J. Allmendinger, Daniel Hemrick, Landon Castle, Justin Allgaier round out your top 10. So 4 races into the 2022 Xfinity Series season, 4 different winners, and 3 of them are actually running for points in the series, so already locked into the playoffs are Gragson, Ty Gibbs, and Austin Hill. Rest of your 12, Justin Allgaier, A.J. Allmendinger, Josh Berry, Daniel Hemrick, Brandon Jones, Ryan Sieg, Sam Mayer, Riley Erbst, and Brandon Brown. The one that we're missing, so to speak, was Cole Custer's win when he was moonlighting.
Yeah, right.
Sunday's Cup Series race in Phoenix was a bit of a history maker, actually, in several ways. First, it became the first Cup Series win for Stewart-Haas Racing's second-year driver, Chase Briscoe. It wasn't easy for him either because he had to hold off a hard-charging field not just once but through 2 restarts.
Yeah.
On the final restart with 3 laps to go, he showed just how good Briscoe and the 14 Mustang were last Sunday. As those in the final couple of laps, he was able to gap second place by 3/4 of a second in just a couple of laps. That's how good and how hooked up that car was.
That was a very, very sporty race car.
It really was. Ross Chastain ended up the runner-up, trailed by Tyler Reddick, meaning that all 3 front runners were actually seeking their first ever Cup Series win. Ryan Blaney was 4th, Kurt Busch 5th. Then Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez, and Chris Buescher complete the top 10. Chris Buescher having a understated but pretty good year so far.
He's quietly up there. He's quietly outperforming his teammate and his car owner.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see whether that sticks. The win came in Briscoe's 40th Cup Series, career Cup Series race. A couple of other historic aspects of the win. Well, first, and this is kind of strange to think this, but it is true, this is the first time that the number 14 in the Cup Series has visited Victory Lane in Phoenix.
That is awkward.
It is. Now, Tony Stewart won
Right.
at Phoenix, but that was back when he was driving for Joe Gibbs Racing and running the number 20.
Right.
Not when he was behind the wheel of his own number 14.
Interesting.
Secondly, most historically, the win by Briscoe makes him the answer to the trivia question, who was the 200th different Cup Series winner in NASCAR's history? The answer is Chase Briscoe.
Chase Briscoe. Yep.
200 different winners now within Cup Series history. Congratulations to Chase Briscoe, and hey, congratulations to the Cup Series overall for actually getting to 200 different winners. Now the march is on to 250.
Yeah, it's surprising to me that it took that long to get 200 winners.
Yeah, when you think about it, we're
Next year will be year 75.
So I was about to say 70, 75 years in, so
Yep.
took a while.
Yeah.
With that, Briscoe is also locked into the Cup Series playoffs alongside Kyle Larson, Austin Cindric, and Alex Bowman, the others who are in on points. Remember, there are 16 in the Cup Series. They're led by Joey Logano, then Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Eric Almirola. Almirola had his 3-race top 10 streak end with his 12th place finish, so still not too shabby. Then you got Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick, Kevin Harvick, Kurt Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Ross Chastain, William Byron, and Austin Dillon. After Phoenix and the West Coast swing, Bubba Wallace, Brad Keselowski, and Denny Hamlin are some of the notable names that are on the outside still looking in.
That's going to change in a hurry.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Let's go down to Gainesville, Florida. NHRA got in their Gator Nationals. Top Fuel. I wonder who guessed at this Top Fuel final. If you guessed this, you need to come with Matt and I later today because we're going to Georgia. We're going to check out the Xfinity and Camping World Truck Series doubleheader over at Atlanta Motor Speedway. You need to come with us, and you need to tell us what the lottery numbers are.
Thank you.
Because if you had Trip Tatum versus Doug Foley in the Top Fuel finals, you're clairvoyant. That's the only way to explain that. First time the two have ever even faced off against each other in Top Fuel history in either career. And it happened to be in the finals.
Right.
Marks only the 7th time that two non-event winners both made the finals in Top Fuel over the past 25 years. So this doesn't happen often. Neither was very quick off the light. Foley's .126 seconds reaction was the quicker of the two. Both of them were asleep at the light. Tripp ends up with the power, though. He was able to catch Foley at the 800-foot mark. He got the win with a 3.700 second run, 330.31 miles per hour. To funny car, Matt Hagan took on Blake Alexander. Marks the 10th time these two have faced off. Hagan led going in 7-2. You can make that 8-2. Hagan was quicker off the light. Alexander smokes his tires. He had to shut everything down. Hagan's run 3.910 seconds, 330.96 miles per hour. And that's the 40th win of his career, and notably the very first for the freshman Tony Stewart Racing Organization. Now, if you think about the fact that we just talked about Phoenix, Chase Briscoe running the number 14 for Stewart Haas Racing, this was actually quite a good weekend for Smoke.
Yeah, I could actually envision one of those memes that come up on social media, the Smoke kicked back in a chair going, today was a good day.
Today was a good day, or last Sunday was anyway.
Yeah.
Pro Stock Car, Kyle Koretsky versus Dallas Glenn. Koretsky holding a very slight 5-4 edge coming into that finals matchup. Koretsky got off the line quicker, and that proved to be everything he needed. Glenn actually had the quicker elapsed time, but too much of a gap off the start. Koretsky gets his 4th win of his career. Then you got Pro Stock Motorcycle. They got their first race of 2022 in. Finals was an all-female affair. Karen Stouffer pairing up against Angel Sampé. Stouffer was quicker on the reaction time and had the faster pass, running a 6.700 ET at 200.77 miles per hour. Claims her 11th career event win. She's now 11-4 versus Sampé in their all-time matchups. And the Factory Stock Showdown got their first run of the year in. Lenny Loddick in his Copo Camaro took on another Copo Camaro, this one driven by Anthony Troyer. Loddick quicker off the line, claims the win at the other end by almost the exact same margin. Loddick's pass, remember, this is a car that if you got $100,000 to $130,000, you could buy. 7.704 seconds at 177.67 miles per hour.
Yeah.
That's 1,000 feet, ladies and gentlemen. Not even a quarter mile. In points, Mike Salinas is 23 points up on Justin Ashley in Top Fuel, 47 over Steve Torrance, who has stumbled out of the gate after 4 straight titles. I imagine he'll right that ship shortly. 78 up on Brittany Force, Clay Milliken 78 out of first. Robert Height leads Matt Hagan by 11 points in Funny Car, 77 up on Ron Capps, 120 up on Cruz Pedregon, John Force 5th, 153 behind the leader. Aaron Stanfield with a 60-point lead on Erica Enders in Pro Stock Car, up 67 on Kyle Koretsky. Dallas Glenn's 87 down, Mason McGahey 110 back. Karen Stouffer's leading in Pro Stock Motorcycle, 20 up on Angie Smith, 40 up on Joey Gladstone, Jerry Savoy, Steve Johnson tied at 60 down. And as expected, Loddick and Troyer are 1-2 in the Factory Stock Showdown points, 112 to 91. Warren Walter holds 76 points, 73 for David Barton. Mark Powick in 5th with 58 points. That brings us to this weekend, and quite the busy weekend, we should say. We mentioned it just a moment ago. There's a doubleheader going on over in Atlanta today. It begins with the Camping World Truck Series, going to be running the Freight 208 for freight auctions. Freight 208, Atlanta Motor Speedway, Fox Sports 1, and MRN Radio have the coverage beginning at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Central Time. Friday, yesterday's qualifying washed out, and if you are anywhere in the southeastern United States, you know what kind of weather we had that rolled through Alabama and over into Georgia. Washed it all out, so that means that Chandler Smith will lead the field to green. Then the Xfinity Series is going to get on the track. They're going to run the Nally Cars 250. Nally is a Atlanta area car dealership, by the way, for those of you that are trying to figure it out. Nally Cars 250 airs on Fox Sports 1, and then PRN Radio, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central Time, presuming everything goes well with the Camping World Truck Series. As noted, no Friday qualifying due to weather. Noah Gragson is on the pole. Then you get to Sunday. Let's start it with the debut for Formula One for 2022. It'll be the Gulf Air Bahrain Grand Prix, running on the 15-turn, 3.3-mile-long Bahrain International Circuit. ESPN has the coverage 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central Time. Word came down just yesterday, by the way. Aston Martin's driver, Sebastian Vettel, out, came down with a positive COVID diagnosis, so Nico Hülkenberg is in, taking his place. Nico Hülkenberg and Kevin Magnussen get to reacquaint themselves with each other.
That they do.
You've been kind of checking it out. Qualifying will happen just after we get off the air this morning.
Right. Yep.
But their third practice, which has kind of been split, they were doing just kind of race runs, and now you were saying it seemed more like they were doing qualifying runs later. What's kind of the standings right now?
Kind of the standings for the FP3. Really, in a way, from last year, same song, different verse. But the interesting thing about it is you actually have a more diverse top 10 now.
Yeah, if you look
FP3.
past 1 or 2 or 3.
You have actually, it's pretty spaced out if you ask me. 10th was Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin Aramco car. Let me say that right now.
Yes.
Interesting to note that the Alpha Twins are 9th and 8th, respectively, with Guan Yu Zhu in 9th, Valtteri Bottas in 8th.
Bottas teaching that young rookie pretty well.
And one of the moves we talked about last week that was made is apparently paying major dividends already. Kevin Magnussen in the Haas, 7th.
Yeah, seems like Ferrari has started to step up their game because you got to remember both Alfa and Haas are Ferrari customers.
You had Lewis Hamilton 6th.
He has not had a stellar beginning to this year, even though it's just been practice.
A half a second off the pace.
Ouch.
You had Carlos Sainz 5th. George Russell with a pretty solid little debut in his Mercedes for the season, 4th.
Outperforming Lewis Hamilton, that says something.
Sergio Perez 3rd. Charles Leclerc 2nd. And your champ, Max Verstappen, was 1st.
A couple of Ferraris up there at the top, too.
Yep.
All right. Past Formula One, IndyCar Series, the NTT Data IndyCar Series will get things running. They're going to run the XPEL 375 at Texas Motor Speedway, the 1.5-mile tri-oval. NBC and IRN Radio cover that race beginning 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Central Time. And then finally the Cup Series tomorrow running in Atlanta. Going to get in the Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500 to be seen on Fox and heard on PRN Radio beginning 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. NHRA and Formula E are off this weekend, by the way, to let you know, with yesterday's washout of qualifying in the Cup Series as well. Chase Briscoe is the pole sitter for tomorrow's Cup Series race.
We've got another event going on, too, for our road racing contingent.
Yeah, go for it.
The 12 Hours of Sebring kicks off today as well.
Yeah, and that's going to bring some interesting information coming out of Hendrick Motorsports and NASCAR. They're working on a cooperative effort that will take a NASCAR Gen 7 stock car, which I would imagine is somewhat modified.
Oh, it's going to be substantially modified.
Use the term somewhat very loosely.
Yeah.
And they're going to take it over to France next year. We'll get to those details coming up in just a little bit. Let's take a break here. We'll take it a little bit early. When we come back, we mentioned the fact that the win for Chase Briscoe was a little bit on the historic side. We gave you 2 reasons why. We're going to dive into that a little bit more as well, kind of give you an idea of exactly how close Chase Briscoe was, not only to not being winner number 200 in NASCAR's history, but how close he was to basically kind of giving up on racing as a whole. Stick around. We'll have that and so much more because we are just underway right here on CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
Your electric cooperative genuinely cares about the local community. Whether supporting educators and community organizations, recruiting and retaining jobs, or providing scholarships, your cooperative is powering a brighter future. That's because your cooperative is owned by the people it serves. That's different from other companies. That's the cooperative difference. Coosa Valley Electric Cooperative, connecting you with community.
Mata's Greek Pizza has been serving Greek and Italian.
Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Yeah, we are. And real quick, portions of the show being brought to you by the fine folks over at Ox Foundation Solutions, most notably our good friend Michael Hart. And if you live anywhere in the state of Alabama, you know kind of the soil that we have. And if you live anywhere in the state of Alabama, you know the weather we had this past week. We had a couple of torrential downpours, depending on where you were. Some of you might have missed it, but we had some pretty severe flooding in and around the Birmingham area.
Yeah, it was nasty.
And it was nasty. And, you know, then we had a storm front come through yesterday and, yeah, dumped a whole lot of rain here. Today, looking much better. Be a little bit cooler, so drop the humidity down. But this is an opportunity for you to get outside of your house and take a look around. And while you're out and about running around your house, checking things out, take a close check. And if you got cracks in your brick or anything like that, might be the time that you need to remember this number, 205-362-6419, or this email, mike@oxfoundations.com. Because if you got a crack, it could mean that you got a problem with your foundation. And if you got a problem with your foundation, trust me, it isn't going to get any better. It's only going to get worse. You need to make sure that you take care of this sooner rather than later. The longer you wait, the more expensive the fix. Don't take chances with that family home. You call or email Michael. You set up the appointment. He'll come out at no cost to you and at no obligation to you. And he'll check out the house in its entirety and give you a written foundation assessment to let you know what, if anything, is wrong with the house. And here's where we trust Ox and where we trust Michael. If there's nothing wrong with the house, he'll put in writing, there's nothing wrong with the house. You've got it in writing, you're good to go. But if you got something wrong, he'll sit down and he'll go over with you in detail what he's found, and he'll tell you about the price of it. And once you're done with the estimate, then you just get to smile a little bit because you look at him and go, hey, I heard about this on CRN. I know about this promo code WEST, W-E-S-T. He'll take 15% off the total that he just quoted you. Set up the appointment now, 205-362-6419 or Mike at oxfoundations.com. Don't forget the promo code WEST. Tell him you heard about it right here on CRN. Let's go back to Phoenix last week, talking about Chase Briscoe's historic win. We noted he's the 200th winner to claim a win in NASCAR's top level. You had found
I've got it right here.
Deal where we know who was the first, 50th, 100th, 150th, and so on.
They've got it by 25.
25s.
Actually.
Okay, go for it. Who's he joined in history?
All right. Win number 1 came from Jim Roper, June 19th, 1949 at Charlotte.
Okay. That's how long it took for us to get 200 different winners.
Your 25th winner, Danny Weinberg, on October 28th, 1951 at Hanford Speedway.
You'd be excused if you didn't know all these names.
Right. Winner number 50, Jack Smith, October the 28th, 1956 in Martinsville. Your 75th winner, Bob Burdick, March 26, 1961 at Atlanta. Your 100th winner, Mario Andretti, February 26, 1967 at Daytona.
Nice.
Your 125th winner, Jeff Bodine, April 29th, 1984.
Wow.
Martinsville. Your 150th winner, Joe Nemechek, September the 9th, 1999, New Hampshire. Your 175th winner, Brad Keselowski, April 26, 2009, Talladega.
There you go.
And Chase Briscoe, winner number 200.
It'll be interesting to see how long it takes us to get to 225.
I'm interested to see that as well.
But that being said, as far as Chase Briscoe is concerned, he said that this was a win that was about only an hour away from actually not happening. Now, 27 years old, the Cup Series driver was 20 years old when he said he had actually packed up his North Carolina life, called his mom, and said of that call, quote, I was bawling. I was over it. Felt like I'd been kicked so many times and I had no opportunities. Yet an hour later, I get a phone call. That phone call he was talking about, where he had only had 2 ARCA Series starts to his credit on a national level, was Briggs and Beth Cunningham calling. They were asking him to test their 2015 ARCA Series racer, which he used to impress them enough to end up going full-time with them in 2016. He won 6 races that year and won the series title. So an hour away from packing it up and quitting the whole thing to about a year and a half later, give or take, he's an ARCA Series champion.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Not at all.
Moved up to the Camping World Truck Series in 2017, running for the then Brad Keselowski Racing. He won his rookie season finale at Homestead, Miami. Moved up to Xfinity Series competition. He won 11 races up there, and now with his win at Phoenix last Sunday, he now becomes the 38th different driver to claim a win in all 3 of NASCAR's top National Series truck, Xfinity, and Cup. After the race, he said to the media, quote, I never thought I'd win a truck race, let alone a win in all 3 series now. Super special. Can't believe it. I don't think it's sunk in yet. I don't know if it will for a while. He added, I think from a confidence standpoint, I feel like I belong this year. Last year, you're very eyes wide open. You're racing against guys you've watched on TV for years that you've looked up to. Now I don't look at the 18 car and go, ooh, that's Kyle Busch. That's just the 18 car. It's another guy out there. This is, and we'll get the driver's perspective from a moment. But in all of sports, football probably most notably, and since Alabama's such a football and a racing state, we'll use that as the example.
Mm-hmm.
You come into Alabama or Auburn or Jacksonville State or UAB or wherever, or you go to the pros, to the Atlanta Falcons or our team, the Patriots, whatever, and as a rookie, everything gets that much faster. You go from high school to college, it's faster. You go from college to the pros, it's that much faster again. And then if you get it, all of those pros that say that they got it, they say that everything kind of starts to slow down and they start to be able to adjust to that speed.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing behind the wheel.
In a way, yeah. It takes you a little bit to get adjusted.
Sure.
you're not going to be perfect or comfortable with first, second, even third or fourth race.
Okay.
It takes that little bit of time.
Witness Jimmy Johnson transferring from NASCAR to IndyCar.
But as he said, you're not your very first race and you're running at Daytona and the Daytona 500. You're pulling the bottom line, and your spotter says, "All right, top line coming, top line there. Hold your line." And you look up. Oh yeah, that's Kyle. Oh yeah, that's Denny. You're laser focused. You're like, all right, go. All right, just 11, 18, 24. All right, I'll just go do my job and just stay focused. And you're not what I call fangirling.
Yeah, you're not sitting there wide-eyed in awe.
Like, that's Kyle.
I mean, I would imagine, and I would probably do the same thing, to be real honest with you. It takes a moment for it to sink in when you start that first race of the year, and it doesn't matter whether we're talking the Busch Clash or we'll use the Daytona 500 since it's the full field, in that you are a little bit in awe. Oh my gosh, I'm racing with Kyle Busch, and I'm racing with Denny Hamlin, and I'm racing with Brad Keselowski, and I'm racing with these drivers who have all won multiple races. Some of them have won titles.
Right.
There's got to be an awe factor in there that, yeah, if you can't get past that, you're never going to really do much of anything at Cup.
You're really not either. You've got to get past, exactly. You've got to get past that fangirling part, as you call it. And this is an opportunity for me to tell a quick story.
Sure.
Back in 2008, no.
It's one of those years.
07, 08, something like it. It was actually 2008. My very first year, my second year, take that back. Went up to Talladega on Cup race weekend to go run the 2-day show. Gonna go have some fun. I pull the car in, get parked, sitting there, go to the super speedway, go enjoy the day.
Sure. Go
back, pull up. There's a big, huge, large white hauler parked by my truck. My F-250 in an open trailer. I'm going, who's this? Drop the lift gate off. Drop the lift gate. They get the car down. 20 minutes later, I look up. It's David Gilliland.
Hello.
He seen me working on the car. He walks over, and I've got a photo on my phone to prove it. I'm working on the car. He walks over and just starts talking to me like I'm sitting here talking to Steve or talking to John.
Nice.
No problem. Kenny Wallace has done me the same way at the short track. They are the way their mentality is. If you're talking, how do I word this? If you're talking average Joe mentality, and you're acting normal, they'll talk to you quicker than they will anybody else.
There you go. You act fangirl.
You act fangirl, they're going the other way.
Sure.
Well, all in all, they're just people to begin with.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
But they don't want a big deal made out of it.
They have talent that I will never see in my little pinky. But
they want to be treated like just another guy. They're there to race just like Matt was.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. They're normal people.
Yeah,
and if you gush and gall, this sometimes embarrasses them.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
Just say, hey, how you doing? Just say, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, start up a conversation. Go for it. It's cool stuff. Then there's this, which is less cool. National Motorsports Appeal Panel has upheld, unfortunately not surprisingly, the suspensions that were levied not only against Cowlick Racing but against Front Row Motorsports. 3 crew members each, including the crew chief of the number 31 and the number 38 respectively, regarding losing wheels during races. Front Row Motorsports said that they won't go any further. Cowlick has not immediately commented on the ruling as to whether they may or may not appeal it further. This whole thing, and there's another one coming, by the way, which is NASCAR suspending Corey LaJoie's crew chief over the next 4 weeks when a wheel came off the number 7 Spire Motorsports Chevy Camaro in Phoenix. Ryan Sparks, the front tire changer, and the Jackman, Ryan Sparks is the crew chief, the front tire of the Jackman, they're all suspended. As of Tuesday, the team hadn't decided whether or not to appeal. But as we just noted about Front Row Motorsports and Cowlick, probably not going to do any good, even if you do. You had this question of why are we doing the front tire and the Jackman?
It is beyond me. Beyond me. Why are we suspending the Jackman?
I don't know.
Does the Jackman have the impact wrench in his hand with a lug on it? No.
No.
Does the Jackman handle the tire or make sure the tire's secure?
No.
The Jackman, all he does is put that jack on the ground, put it underneath the jack stop, one pump, car off the ground.
The most I've seen really a Jackman be, I'm going to use the term responsible, but that's not real. It's not really the proper word, but I'll use it anyway. For a tire is if he notices that it's starting to roll away and he can actually put his foot out there and stop it.
Catching it, yeah.
That's really about the only time I've ever seen a Jackman deal with a tire, truth be told, in any way, shape, or form. And then there's Corey LaJoie's take on this particular situation, which I really like. He appeared on Sirius XM Satellite Radio's NASCAR channel early this week, said that the rule is flat wrong. He said this, quote, "The rule was made to deter crew chiefs from telling their tire changers to hit 3 and send it because it made the pit stop a second faster." Of course, that was back when we had 5 lug nuts per wheel.
Yep.
He said, now you're going to suspend a crew chief for 4 races for what the right front tire changer thinks they're getting it tight. Ryan Sparks doesn't want to send our car with a loose wheel and stuff it in the fence and finish last and kill the whole car. Penalties almost already divvied out before NASCAR even hands the penalty out. And then he concluded this by saying, quote, "When you're laying a penalty, you also have to look at intent, right? Because if the intention with hitting 3 lug nuts was a faster stop and then the wheel comes off, yeah, that's the crew chief's call to hit those 3 lug nuts and go. That's a team-wide decision. With 1 lug nut, it's either on there or it's not on there. It's not a competition advantage to not get a wheel tight anymore."
Thank you.
NASCAR needs to look at this particular rule, I think. I agree with him on this. It's too broadly applied. You want to send it to the tire changer, I kind of get that. I never understood the Jackman. And just like LaJoie said, the crew chief with that single center lug nut, he's not telling anybody, oh, just try and get it half tight. You got to get it on there, man.
Well, considering that these lugs have spring locks on them too,
That's true.
when it gets to that point, that spring lock engages. What if a spring lock fails
Ooh.
and that wheel backs off?
Interesting question.
Can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Can we not take that into consideration?
One would hope. I would imagine there's going to be a lot more appeals on this as we go along.
Here's the thing about that. Here's the thing about it. Do we see it all that common in IMSA? No.
No, not really.
Because why? The load on the car of IMSA is not as high as it is on a cup car.
Number one, and number two, let's face it, this is brand new for this year. We're only 4 races into the year. These guys aren't that used to it yet. This is still, for all intents and purposes, brand new to NASCAR.
Four races in, and this is now, what, the 5th one that they've done?
Mm-hmm.
Give me a break.
Yeah.
You got people that are used to going bam, 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 and they're going bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's a very, very different situation.
Yeah.
Meantime, Richard Childress talked to NBC Sports on Tuesday, said he's got Tyler Reddick under contract for next year. 26-year-old driver, as noted in the recap, finished 3rd in Phoenix. He's now in his 3rd season driving for RCR. He's a 2-time Xfinity Series title winner. He came out strong this season, just shy of visiting victory lane. He's led 51 laps at the Clash at the Coliseum, led 90 more laps at Auto Club Speedway before some issues sidelined him in both of those events. Got a top 10 in Vegas, 7th, and, of course, 3rd in Phoenix as we head into Atlanta this weekend. The kid's good. There's no doubt about it.
He is.
He's going to win. He's going to win multiple races before his career is done. I can guarantee you that. Then there's this bit of news, and I find this very, very interesting. NASCAR and Le Mans are not necessarily two things that seem to go together, but that's about to change, at least for one particular race next year. NASCAR and Hendrick Motorsports partnering up on a deal that will see an admittedly modified Hendrick Motorsports Gen 7 Cup stock car to be entered into the 24 Hours Le Mans 2023. Now, it's not going to, by any stretch of the imagination, compete for the overall win. This is an experimental category. It's termed by Le Mans and the World Endurance Challenge Series as a Garage 56 entry. This is a category they created back in 2012. It's a single entry class. It's reserved for what they term as innovative cars, allows for the testing of new technologies, being creative and innovative beyond the traditional classes. So this car actually will not take or claim a spot on the traditional starting grid from somebody who might have already been there, in other words.
Right.
The organizer of the 24 Hours Le Mans must still offer an official invitation, but the president of the ACO, which is the governing body over that particular race, and I'm not going to try and butcher the French language by trying to pronounce it, so it's the ACO. Deal with it. They were part of this announcement of the NASCAR-Hendrick partnership, so it's probably coming. Pierre Fillon is the name of the gentleman who heads the ACO. He said in a French accent, which I'm not going to try to copy, Garage 56 is a special opportunity at Le Mans since this race has been a leader in technological processes for the auto industry over its nearly century-long existence. When the ACO receives an application for our Garage 56 program, we talk with designers, team partners, and suppliers, set performance parameters such that the program can be successful for everyone involved. We will continue to work with NASCAR and all their partners as they work towards their proposed 2023 Garage 56 project.
I will take a shot at the ACO. Automobile Club de l'Ouest.
Sure.
I'll take a shot at it.
Okay.
I ain't scared.
Now, that being said, this will actually be the second time NASCAR goes to Le Mans. The first time, you got to go all the way back to our bicentennial year of 1976 when Big Bill France worked out a deal. He sent a Dodge Charger and a Ford Gran Torino to Le Mans, owned by Herschel McGriff and Junie Donlevy, respectively. This one will make it a Chevy. Again, collaborative effort between Hendrick, NASCAR, IMSA, and Goodyear. Driver lineup has yet to be announced, but I would imagine he's got no shortage of drivers just in the Hendrick Motorsports stable who would be more than willing to go take a shot at Le Mans, just to say, I've been on the track.
I'll go.
Sure. Why wouldn't you?
I'd
grief.
go in a heartbeat.
That's an opportunity. It's an opportunity of a lifetime, really. I mean, there are things and places that solid racers who have an interest in all different kinds of series really want to do. Mm-hmm. Le Mans is one of them. Indianapolis is, it's the holy grail. Monaco would be another one. Daytona's coming up on that.
Yep.
There are those tracks around the world that everybody goes, I would really love to run there. Le Mans is one of those. Go for it, man. It'll be interesting to see how this works.
It will.
We'll keep you updated on it. Got to take a break. When we come back, we don't have a whole lot of news from the Xfinity Series or the Camping World Truck Series, but we'll get into that. No Superstar Racing Experience news for this particular week, but we do have some news from the NHRA. We're going to get to all that and, of course, so much more because we got a long way to go right here on CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. 4 tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Oh, let's see what else we can get ourselves into here. Joe Gibbs Racing continuing to work on filling out the season of their number 18 Toyota Supra. They're using this as their kind of all-star entry this year. 3 of those races going to be taken by Kyle Busch Motorsports Camping World Truck Series driver John Hunter Nemechek. Took a couple of turns for JGR last year in Xfinity Series competition as well. He won at Texas in the number 54 last year. This year in the 18 with sponsorship from supermarket brand Safeway. No, they're not in Alabama. He will race Richmond, Dover, and Texas. Maybe more.
Probably will be more.
Then there's Sam Hunt Racing. Sam Hunt Racing has announced that they're going to put super late model driver Derek Griffith, who's now 25 years old, in their Xfinity Series ride for the upcoming Richmond race. Griffith hails from New Hampshire. He signed a multi-race deal with the other SHR, Sam Hunt Racing, that'll have him running several races for Hunt this season, adding Richmond to Martinsville and New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Griffith got into racing a little bit late, especially for these days. He was 12 years old when he started driving, but he quickly learned how to win. He's won at several New England area tracks and is a multiple-time winner at New Smyrna Speedway's World Series of Asphalt Racing. He's also been a division winner in the ProStar All-Star Series, so kid's got some pretty good credentials coming in.
He does.
We'll just have to see if he's starstruck, kind of like what
but
Chase
he
Briscoe
started racing at 12.
Loser.
I didn't start
Jeez.
till I was 22.
Loser. What's up with that?
Big loser.
Oh, well.
22.
I'd say you learn pretty quick.
Yeah.
We mentioned this after the Las Vegas race a couple of weeks ago. Spencer Boyd involved in a last lap crash where he suffered a dislocated shoulder. He promised then that he would be back ready to race today in Atlanta, but that's one of those things that NASCAR's doctors have to clear officially. According to Bob Pockris of Fox Sports, it did happen officially on Thursday. Pockris posted on social media, NASCAR says Spencer Boyd cleared to race in the Truck Series this weekend in Atlanta. Now, the good thing for him is that Atlanta's not as rough as it once was. We've repaved it. The bad thing could be that the G-forces get a little bit more intense because you got to remember, in the repave, we also reconfigured the track and the banking's higher.
Just a little.
Got to kind of wonder what those G-forces are going to do to a shoulder that is, even though it's cleared, it's still got to be tender.
It's not going to feel good, I'm telling you.
I've never suffered a dislocated shoulder. I don't know what the aftermath is, but I can only imagine that if he's able to make it to the end of the 208 miles today, he's going to be sore at the very least.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Then there's a team that you probably don't really know a whole lot about that's in there. It's McAnally Hilgeman Racing. They've announced plans that they're actually going to enter a third team truck for at least 5 races this coming year. The other 2 trucks that they have out there, by the way, are Derek Kraus in the 19, Colby Howard in the number 91. This truck is going to sport the number 35, and a driver by the name of Jake Garcia is behind the wheel. Speaking of a guy who's a little wet behind the ears. The 5 races, by the way, are going to be Martinsville, Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway, Lucas Oil Park, Richmond, and Bristol. Garcia out of Monroe, Georgia, is all of 17 years old.
Yep.
Very limited top-level NASCAR experience. It's limited to exactly 1 ARCA Menards West Series start. He did finish 6th last fall in that race in Phoenix, though. He does have several Cars Pro late model starts to his credit. He's the defending Southern Super Series champion. He's run the Pro All-Star Series, and he was the Super Late Model track champion at Five Flag Speedway last year.
Yep. And I think he finished top 5 in the Rattler 250 at South Alabama last weekend.
Yeah,
as well.
he's been at Montgomery, and he raced a lot at Montgomery Motor Speedway and Five Flags last year, so he's not unfamiliar to racers in Atlanta, in the Alabama, Georgia area, but he's only 17 years old and already getting a Truck Series start.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
And McAnally Hilgeman Racing, in this particular situation, he's got Kraus, he's got Colby Howard as mentors, I guess, if you want to call it that way. What?
Neither one of them's much older than he is.
That's true. I don't know what to expect out of this situation, I'll be real honest.
I don't know. I have no clue.
Keep an eye on the young guns.
Yeah, that's
Come on,
true.
little feller.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, when I started this show just before you came on board the show. So I'm going to go give or take about a decade ago. Maybe not quite. Back when we used to be able to take calls. I had a caller ask me one time, where were all the youngsters? You know, when are we going to see an influx of new blood? Because at that point in time, we still had Dale Earnhardt Jr., we had Tony Stewart, we had Jeff Gordon running, we had Matt Kenseth running on a full-time basis, Greg Biffle. We had all of the quote-unquote older guys who were in there, and they were all kind of wondering where the young blood was going to be coming from. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got it. We got it in spades. So if you wanted to know where the young blood for the racing world is coming in, here it is.
Yep.
Right on your doorstep.
Yep.
We mentioned it was a big weekend for Tony Stewart. We flip over to the National Hot Rod Association. Stewart wasn't even racing himself, and he wasn't in Phoenix. But trust me, he knew that his old number 14 had visited Victory Lane in Phoenix with his driver, Chase Briscoe. No, Tony was in Florida, where earlier on Sunday, remember the television side on Fox Sports 1 was a delayed situation. He was in Florida, where on Sunday he happened to be on hand to see Matt Hagan pilot the team's funny car entry to his organization's first ever NHRA win in only their third event. Smoke, it's pretty typical of him. A set of Hagan's win quotes, pretty badass, especially at the Gator Nationals. We got two awesome race teams that worked their butts off. I'm really proud of these guys. As for Hagan said, quote, to get this first win at the Gator Nationals and Tony Stewart's first win in a drag car, it's pretty awesome. I'm very blessed, humbled to be here. For all the fans who showed up to get this first win at the Gators, it is unbelievable. That being said, his wife and their Top Fuel entry, they were trying to get in on, it was a showdown, basically. It was a call out on the qualifying situation. And they could not get her car hooked up at all. That car was smoking the tires off the bat, and she unfortunately, she didn't even qualify in the top 16 to make the finals at all. So they're going to have to regroup and try again on Leah Pruitt's attempt. She's still going by Leah Pruitt, by the way. She's not going by Leah Stewart.
I don't think that'll change.
I don't think it will either.
No.
She did that once. Remember the days of Leah Pritchett?
Yeah. Yep.
Not going to happen again. Also, we mentioned the factory stock showdown. Mark Powick set a new division record at the Gator Nationals. Behind the wheel of his Dodge Challenger drag pack ride, he claimed the fastest elapsed time run in the fairly young history of the factory stock showdown. He gunned the ride, remember this is 1,000 feet, to a 7.60 second pass, blistering the old record during qualifying. In fact, all the top 8 qualifiers made their qualifying runs under the old fast time down the track. Interesting to note, though, that the two finalists, winner Lenny Lottig and runner-up Anthony Troyer, were not in that 8th. That's right. Lottig qualified 10th. Troyer's best qualifying run put him 13th in the 16-car final bracket. So it just goes to show qualifying ain't everything. It's not a bad thing.
No.
But it ain't everything.
Nope.
Again, I'm going to go back to this. We've talked about it before. I'm going to re-mention it before we move on. I had the chance, you get involved in groups on social media or you get involved in emails. And several years ago when you and myself and a former host of the show, co-host of the show, we all went out to Barber Motorsports Park to check out the IndyCar race. Mm-hmm. And we went through the fan zone. And, you stop in and you got the Honda booth, you got the Chevrolet booth. We stopped in the Chevrolet booth. I signed up and I've stuck with it, by the way. A newsletter from Chevrolet. It's just kind of fun and interesting because every once in a while they throw out some racing news, and they happen to give me an email. I can't even remember how long ago it was. It might have been last November, maybe December, early December, maybe. And said, reserve your Copo Camaro now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'll bite. Let's find out exactly how much this thing costs, right? You might remember I said at the top of the show, hope you got about 6 figures in your checkbook because you're going to need it. So I go through this process, and you got to go through this whole situation before you can ever find out exactly how much these things cost. Well, it turns out there's 3 levels of this Copo Camaro that you can buy from your local Chevrolet dealer if you're fast enough and have the money. The lowest level was just over $100,000. Then you go to level 2, level 3, presumably the all-everything Copo Camaro, was north of $120,000. Mm-hmm. Ouch. But, again, look at what I just said. And I don't know how much Dodge is charging for this Challenger Drag Pack Edition, but I would imagine it's probably not that far off of what Chevy's charging for a Copo Camaro. In 1,000 feet, he ran that thing in 7.60 seconds.
Whew. Let's just see here. Dodge Challenger Drag Pack for sale.
Okay. Go for that.
Dodge Drag Pack Challenger.
Uh-huh.
$185,000.
Oh. Ow. So I was incorrect in that it's far off of what the Chevy Copo Camaro. Now, again, this is manufacturer's suggested retail price. What you may end up having to pay for it because of potential dealer markup.
Yeah. Let's see what this other one is on legendarymotorcar.com.
And Ford, by the way, has theirs, the Cobra Jet Mustang, just to let you know.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how much these things cost.
Inquire for price.
There you go. We're not even going to tell
that
you
ought to tell you
how much it'll cost.
Yep.
Not almighty. And again, difference between new and used. These things aren't street legal.
No.
So don't think that you're going to go buy this thing and go take it out on the run and, take it down I-20. It's not happening.
Yeah,
unless you would like to get it confiscated and go to jail.
I was going to say you could.
And then you'll get it confiscated and you'll go to jail.
But suffer the consequences.
Yes. I don't think Quintard right out our window here can handle it.
No. And I wouldn't even try, to be real honest with you. The whole situation between IndyCar and Formula One has kind of, I'm not going to say come to a head, but at the same point in time, when you stop and you think about some of the situations that are going on with that, we seem to be getting a lot more crossover. We talked about the drivers. There's an ownership situation as well that's coming up when it comes to that. So I'm going to be curious as to how that's all going to work out. We're going to dive into that when we get into hour number 2 here. Let's go ahead and take a break just a little bit early here. When we come back, it'll be open wheel racing in hour number 2. A lot of Formula One news coming up as well. Stay close. You're checking us out right here, and we appreciate you doing so on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
Mountain.
2 tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Yeah, we are back here on the Championship Racing Network. Appreciate you checking us out. I'm Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers. And plenty of things to get to here. But first things first, if you were listening on our flagship station, want to make sure that we clear this up because you may have heard a commercial for Talladega Short Track. Okay? And they were supposed to run a very special race this weekend. Keywords, supposed to run.
Yeah, the Bama Bash that was coming back to life this weekend has been postponed. The race has, but for the series event, it's been canceled outright because of the weather conditions that hit yesterday. The grounds are entirely too wet down there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, race surface untenable. So if you were planning on going out there tonight, make alternate plans. Because if you go out there, it's going to be dark, unfortunately. Sad, but true. Mother Nature tends to get in the way of these things. Last week on the show, we broke the news towards the end of the show that Andretti Autosport IndyCar driver Colton Herta signed a deal to test Formula One cars for McLaren F1's team this season. How does his IndyCar team owner, Michael Andretti, feel about this? Well, he commented later on Saturday of last week, said that the 21-year-old California kid who has 6 IndyCar wins under his belt already, he's highly supportive of the move. He noted that Herta is signed to his team, Andretti Autosport, in IndyCar through 2023. Andretti talked to Racer.com. He said this, quote, "I think it's really important for the programs that we're working on, obviously. And so McLaren was good enough to get him some miles in the car, which I think it'd be really good for him. Plus, it helps getting to that point towards his super license. So it's really cool of McLaren to do that." He noted that it was a deal that was struck between Herta and McLaren. He wasn't involved in it in any way. Well, that's what he says. I'm kind of wondering about this because if you look at this, there's a whole lot of strings that tie these three together. The support comes from Herta, Andretti, and McLaren CEO Zach Brown. All three are friends. Andretti and Brown are actually co-owners of the Walkinshaw Andretti entry in the Australian Supercars series. Mm-hmm. You can't tell me that there wasn't a text or a phone call or something.
Right.
I'd be shocked if there wasn't.
Yeah, no doubt.
And again, we talked about this last week. This just seems to further this whole thing about just how serious Michael Andretti is about getting his own Andretti Autosport Formula One team. Andretti added this to Racer.com, quote, "You know that Zach Brown, CEO of McLaren, wants to show that Americans can drive race cars. I think he'd love to see Colton go over there and put on some really good lap times. But then it also helps Colton out, helps us getting him for miles in the car early. There's a lot of good things that could come out of it, but he did stop short about talking about any potential Andretti Formula One team entry." That I think he's waiting on the FIA and Formula One to get back to him.
Right.
But if this is doing what he said he was going to do, and he said if he could get a hold of, and we'll use Sauber Alfa Romeo as the example here.
Right.
That Colton Herta was going to probably be one of his drivers. Mm-hmm. It was like all but like 1% confirmed, maybe 5%.
Yeah, it was all but a given.
Yeah, that Colton Herta was going to be going over there and becoming the Formula One driver for Andretti Autosport.
Right.
Again, I just look at it, and he said that he didn't have anything to do with it. He wasn't involved in this in any way, shape, or form. And I'm just thinking to myself, yeah, you may not have started the conversation. You may not have negotiated any of the details of it, but you can't sit there and tell me that you didn't have a say-so in this for one of your drivers to become a test driver for an entirely different team, a team that actually is an owner in IndyCar, a competitor of yours.
Yeah, you can't, because overall, in the grand scheme and the grand scope of things, Michael Andretti's voice, let me word it that way,
okay,
his voice in motorsports overall is way too loud.
Yeah. It's got some weight to it. It's got weight to it.
And a ton of weight. Exactly.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we're not talking about it's loud in a bad or obnoxious way. We're just saying that he's very, very well known. He's highly respected.
Exactly.
The Andretti name is a very, very respected name in all of racing, truth be told, IndyCar especially. He's got some gravitas towards it. So, yeah, I'd find this hard to believe that this deal between Colton and McLaren just came out of the blue without Andretti knowing anything about it. He's got to know about it. And again, this is Colton Herta is one of those drivers who has said, yeah, I'd love to get a shot at Formula One if given the opportunity. He seems happy in IndyCar. So, you know, if he spent the rest of his career driving IndyCar, I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he would be totally unhappy with it. But if he gets the opportunity, I think he would love to do F1.
Yeah.
There's another side to this. There's always the flip side to this coin. And that happens to be, in this case, a McLaren driver. Talking about Pato O'Ward. Pato O'Ward has made no bones about the fact that he has Formula One ambitions. He came from Formula One, by the way, just to let you know. O'Ward claimed his first IndyCar win just last year, and as a reward, McLaren, Aero McLaren SP, specifically in IndyCar, set him up with his first postseason Formula One test in a McLaren F1 racer. And that seemed to have stirred thoughts in him despite being under contract to Aero McLaren SP in IndyCar through 2024. The Associated Press interviewed him on Wednesday. O'Ward said, quote, "To be honest with you, I'm focused on what I'm doing right now, driving and trying to be the best, to do the best season I can. My group of people," listen to this very carefully because you got to read between the lines in some ways here. "My group of people is just scouting out what my future is going to look like. Yeah, that's pretty much as I've got right now for you." Again, signed with Aero McLaren SP through 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Seems a bit upset. Could it be because Colton Herta has been signed to test F1 cars, and Pato O'Ward, who has made no bones about the fact, including last year,
Mm-hmm.
that he would love to go back to Formula One, we'll get back to that in a second, is not testing, even for his own McLaren operation in Formula One?
It's kind of hard to it's kind of hard to say anything on that because I can see his point.
Sure. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
You're letting an outside competitor in IndyCar, let's word it that way, coming from outside of your four walls, infiltrating your organization's four walls, and taking one step up and getting to do what you've been expressing interest to do without blinking an eye, really.
Mm-hmm. Pato O'Ward,
Weird.
by the way, was signed to run for Red Bull. He got released from that contract, and in 2020 moved over to IndyCar.
Mm-hmm.
O'Ward wouldn't say why he suddenly seemed to have changed his mind or how he seems to feel about McLaren when he initially signed before the 2020 season. Speculation that he's, by the way, neither confirmed nor denied in the interview, has to do with the first story that we mentioned, Colton Herta signing for McLaren. Likely, again, more of a deal between McLaren and Andretti. Michael Andretti still actively seeking his own Formula One team. Herta, likely as one of the drivers, wants to get him a little bit of practice so that he's not just thrown to the wolves if and when Andretti gets to field their Formula One team, which they're hoping to do for 2024. But again, yeah, if you look at it from this standpoint, right. And, you know, these drivers, you got a whole lot of alpha dogs out there, you know?
Quite a few.
You have to have a specific personality to be a racer. You got to have a bulldog mentality. And I'll put you in the position, if I'm the owner and you've expressed interest in going to a specific series, and then I go to John's team and I go, "John, you've got this driver who I find kind of interesting. What say we test him in this series that, yeah, I know that Matt has expressed interest in, but you know what? I like your driver. And you've talked about maybe putting an entry in this series, John. You want to put him in one of my cars and see how he does?"
No, I like my driver too, just where he is. Thank you very much.
But let's say John does not say that. Let's say John goes, "Yeah, I do want to get into that series." You give him a couple of miles behind the wheel of that car.
Right.
How are you feeling about it? Because you wanted to go to that series.
Let's just say it's a little hot under the collar. Very hot under the collar.
The sad thing is that, and I don't know that they haven't, but the sad thing is that this is getting played out in the press.
Whole lot.
Yeah, I would hope, sincerely hope, that Pat O'Ward and Zach Brown sit down at some point in time and talk this thing out so that Brown understands what it is that Pat O'Ward is exactly feeling, number one, but number two, that Pat O'Ward understands why Colton Herta was brought over.
Yeah, if I'm Zach Brown, that's the first point of business.
Yeah, you got to get this figured out because Pat O'Ward's a good kid. And, you know, we've talked about the relative inability to get a Formula One seat. It is not an easy thing to do. Seats are a lot easier in IndyCar. And I'm here to tell you, Pat O'Ward will be a highly sought-after driver if he ends up being a free agent at the end of this year. He can pretty much write his own ticket and go to almost any team he wants to, unless this continues to play out in the press. If this continues to play out in the press, Pat O'Ward might actually find himself with a label he doesn't want as a hothead who, well,
true.
Hothead's bad enough, but he's not going to come and try and figure this thing out through us and try and work it out internally. He's going to go to the press. He's going to complain to the press. Mm-hmm. That's a bad reputation to have.
For sure.
Bad reputation to have.
For sure.
So we'll have to see how all this particular soap opera works itself out. And it is kind of a soap opera, truth be told. It was announced on Tuesday of this week that the Honda Indy Grand Prix of Alabama is going to have Tim Tebow as this year's Grand Marshal. Tebow, of course, came to prominence playing quarterback at the University of Florida, where he won the Heisman Trophy. Had a short NFL career, has since joined ESPN as a college football analyst. He's also written a bestseller on the New York Times bestsellers list. Who knew that? And he heads his own Tim Tebow Foundation. He'll give the command to fire engines. NBC Sports. We talked about this in the offseason. All in on NASCAR. How much so? Well, 17 races this year. 14 of them will be on the main network of NBC. There's going to be 2 on USA, and one's going to be on Peacock, their NBC streaming service only.
Uh-huh.
But the other 14 are all going to be on NBC. Since they killed off their NBC Sports Network, they kind of had to.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they're embracing it, though, because really they could have shunted them all off to USA and only put a handful of them on NBC, but they didn't do that. I'll give them credit for doing it this way. In the month of May comes the crown jewel of IndyCar and one of the crown jewels in all of the racing world, the Indy 500. Now, you might remember just last season, Helio Castroneves was the winner of that race, and that was his 4th Indy 500 win in his career. And that's something that's only been done 3 other times in IndyCar history by names that are legendary. We're talking A.J. Foyt, Al Unser, Rick Mears. There's going to be a massive celebration of bringing in Helio Castroneves into this very exclusive club of only now 4 drivers. NBC has produced a special, or is in the process of finishing up the special entitled Pennzoil Presents The Club. It'll air on NBC on May the 14th, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central Time, and that'll lead into coverage of that afternoon's GMR Grand Prix, the IndyCars on the IndyCar Road Course, Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course. That's 2 weeks before the famous Indy 500. Now, last July, the 4 drivers all got together at Indianapolis Motor Speedway during the break for the Summer Olympics. They commemorated the 4 drivers that claimed 4 Indy 500 wins. And Penske Entertainment, which is the owners of the track and the NTT Data IndyCar series as a whole, recorded the 4 sitting down and talking about their times behind the wheel and kind of comparing notes. In addition, you can expect some other well-known drivers like Mario Andretti, Tony Stewart, and Scott Dixon to appear. And then Roger Penske will also appear, talking about it from his angle. Now, also remember this. This was last July. Al Unser passed away back in December. So there will also be a memoriam to him included in the show as well. This is going to be must-see television.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, if you're any kind of a race fan, to have the opportunity to see these 4 guys, Foyt, Unser, Mears, and Castroneves, together in one room talking racing, and then you get names like Mario Andretti, Tony Stewart, and Scott Dixon to come in as well and talk about it from their angles. Yeah, this is going to be good stuff.
Yep.
Again, May the 14th, 1 p.m. Central Time, just before the race on the Indy Road Course coming up that afternoon. One more note there. the number of entries when it comes to the Indy 500 is something that has been watched. And we've seen as many as 34, 35 trying to get into a 33-car field, right? As for this year's Indy 500, last week's confirmation, as we told you about on the show, J.R. Hildebrand going to be running the third A.J. Foyt Racing entry on the oval courses, means that he will drive that third A.J. Foyt Racing entry in the Indy 500. So it puts the number of confirmed entrants for this year's most famous race at 32. Again, the field handles 33. Getting to 33 now is starting to become a little bit more difficult than previously thought. Generally, for this particular race, a whole lot of teams will go, well, we've got 3 cars, or we got 4 cars, or we got 5 cars in the case of Andretti Autosport. But for this race, we're going to put an extra entry or maybe 2 out there.
Yeah.
Andretti Autosport has already said he's sticking with 5 entries. He is not going with a 6th.
Yeah, I'll believe that when I see it.
A.J. Foyt Racing, despite having Tatiana Calderon running all the road and street course races, said that they're not set to enter a 4th entry for IndyCar. Dale Coyne Racing says, hey, we're set at 2. We're not doing 3. Juncos Hollinger Racing has also checked in. They said they're sticking with their one and only entry. That one might be the one that I would probably question more than any other. Because if Juncos Hollinger Racing can form a deal in a cooperative effort, and I'll be honest with you, I can't remember whether they run Honda or Chevy engines, but if they cut a deal with one of the big teams within Honda or Chevy.
Juncos is Honda, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so that would, let's see, that wouldn't be Penske, would it? That'd be Chevy.
Honda would be Andretti.
So maybe they could cut a deal with Andretti, or maybe they could cut a deal with Chip Ganassi.
Yep,
In a cooperative effort to put another car out there. That's the one I got to admit that I'm wondering about.
There will be a 33rd car come from somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guarantee you there will be a 33rd, probably a 34th and 35th, because you got those one-off teams like Dreyer and Reinbold Racing who have yet to officially announce what they're doing. Top Gun Racing, which did get in last year, barely. They're talking about it, but they haven't confirmed anything yet. Chevrolet says they're confirmed at 15 engines for the Indy 500. Honda claims that they have 17 confirmed engines set to start the Indy 500. So there's your 32. Both companies, though, claim that they can handle up to 18 engines each. 36. Somebody's going to be taking advantage of that.
Somebody will, yeah.
Team Penske has not checked in, so we don't know whether they are dead set for or against an extra entry. Neither is Chip Ganassi Racing. We'll have to wait and see on those. As we mentioned, there's a couple of teams out there that basically just kind of only run the Indy 500 on a year-in, year-out basis.
Right.
We'll find out. Time will tell.
Yep.
But it's going to be interesting to see. But, yeah, I tend to be in your camp. I tend to believe that there's no way that we're going to be sticking only to 32 cars. We'll get 33. In fact,
yeah.
I'm still pretty firmly convinced there's going to be bump day, and it's going to be meaningful just like it was last year.
Yep.
That's the fun part.
No doubt.
That's the fun part, because bump day, if you've never really experienced bump day, you're missing out on something, truth be told. It's a lot of fun to watch these drivers as they go, I'm 33rd?
Oh, got to go get faster.
I need to try it again.
Yeah.
It's fun. It is. It's very interesting.
No doubt.
The drama. Let's flip over to Formula One here, and we'll pretty much stick with them for the rest of this hour.
When you have a break, there is something breaking from Formula One.
Oh, well, since we have breaking news from Formula One, we were about to start talking about it anyway. Let's lead off with the breaking news, shall we?
3 months later, this
3 months.
This ever so glorious FIA report from Abu Dhabi
Oh, gosh.
has been released.
Oh, finally.
Finally has been released.
Just in time for the regular season.
The FIA report to the World Motorsport Council.
Yes. The judging body, by the way, for the FIA.
It's long.
Says a lot without saying a whole lot.
It pretty much in a nutshell. The most motorsports media that has read the report, it was made out basically in a nutshell that the direct radio communications to Michael Massey were made out to be a distraction in a high-pressure moment but the report did not specifically blame him or anyone.
What is that, a government report? We know that there's faults to be made, but we can't figure out exactly who to place the blame on.
If there's not direct fault on Massey, then why is he not continuing the race director? Oh, wait. Hashtag because Mercedes.
Well, we'll get back to that because we do have more on that. Some things that could happen this season, though, for fans that you might want to know about these. The Formula One's a little bit like baseball in the fact that they keep very, very intricate stats. So there are some statistics that we could find broken or tied throughout the course of this year. Of course, the big one is titles. We know that Sir Lewis Hamilton sits on 7 titles in a tie with Michael Schumacher for the most all time. So Hamilton could set the new mark this season should he come back and claim his 8th title. There's also this. The current longest gap between race wins in Formula One history currently sits at 6 years, 211 days. That was set back in the 1980s by a driver who I can guarantee you never heard of, Riccardo Patrese. He drove for Williams, Benetton, and Brabham. Fernando Alonso, should he claim a win this year, would have the brand new record because his last win happened in 2013's Spanish Grand Prix. So he would not only beat 6 years, 211 days, he would far surpass it.
Substantially.
Yes. With Kimi Räikkönen now retired, his records for most race appearances, raced laps, and race finishes are set. He ran in 349 total races, completing 18,621 laps, tallying 278 finishes, in other words, non-DNFs. Alonso is within sight of 2 of those marks. He has 16 races and only 586 laps shy of Räikkönen's numbers in those 2 categories. Both of those should fall this year easily. Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso actually could do this. Alonso's 13 behind when it comes to finishes. Alonso's 13 behind Räikkönen. Hamilton's only 5 races behind Alonso all time. So both of them should break through. But the bigger question is, when all is said and done and Alonso and Hamilton are retired, who will have the bigger number of the 2? Neither one seems all that inclined to be quitting anytime too soon.
No.
Let's put it to you that way. So this number could end up being quite high.
It could be, yeah.
Michael Schumacher holds the Formula One record for the most all-time races with one team. He ran 179 races for Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton's going to best that in race number 3 this year because he's got 177 starts in his Mercedes. That pairing, by the way, Schumacher, Hamilton, they're also tied with the most career wins at one particular race. Schumacher won the French Grand Prix 8 different times. Hamilton has 8 times in his career won both the Hungarian and the British Grand Prix. So he's got 2 opportunities to beat that this year. Max Verstappen, despite being rather young still, already holds the record for podium or top 3 finishes in a season, 18. This season, there are now 23 races, assuming that the Russian Grand Prix does officially get replaced. That could easily be surpassed this year because the 18 mark that Max Verstappen set happened just last year when there were 22 races on the schedule.
I'm pretty sure it'll get broke.
I get the funny feeling
Pretty
you're
sure it'll get broken.
Let's get back to more Schumacher-Hamilton connections. Both of those drivers are tied with winning at least 1 race in 15 straight seasons. Now, unless Mercedes just happens to fall all over themselves this year, that's going to go down. I'd find it hard to believe that Lewis Hamilton can't claim 1 win this year.
Yeah, it'll be 1. How many? Yet to be seen, but we know it'll be at least 1.
It'll be at least 1.
Yeah.
Speaking of pairings, let's do one more Fernando Alonso Kimi Räikkönen pairing. This is the number of podium finishes coming from starts not on the front row. That's an odd stat. Räikkönen has the record with 72 such podium finishes. Alonso's only 5 such finishes shy of topping that list. That being said, the team that he's with is not exactly what anyone would call the most consistent. I can't guarantee this is going to fall.
True.
Then you got 3 legends, Hamilton, Schumacher, and Ayrton Senna. These guys are tied for most pole positions at any one particular race, 8. Senna, 8 times sat on the pole at San Marino. Schumacher, 8 times sat on the pole in Japan. Hamilton has 8 pole positions at both Hungary and Australia. Get the funny feeling he'll grab one of those. Hamilton and Senna, by the way, also tied with most consecutive wins in any one race. Senna racked up 5 straight wins at Monaco. That's a nice feather in his cap.
Mm-hmm.
Hamilton currently has a streak of 5 straight wins in Spain. I'm not going to guarantee that's going to continue. I can't. But wait, there's more. Lewis Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel have the record for sharing a podium 56 times between the two. Thing about it is, Hamilton and Verstappen have been together on the podium some 46 times. So that number could be surpassed, but let's not forget that Sebastian Vettel's still racing, despite the fact that he's got COVID and won't be racing tomorrow.
I'm pretty sure the Hamilton Verstappen
Gonna happen more.
is going to happen this year.
Yeah, it's gonna happen more.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton has Formula One's all-time consecutive race finishes record. It sits at 47. That was broken, by the way, when he sat out the 2020 Bahrain Grand Prix, the season finale, due to COVID. He'd already claimed the title. The closest competitor to him can get the record this year if Carlos Sainz, who has 29 currently, does not have a DNF. I can't guarantee that he won't.
Time will tell.
Then there's this. Chris Amon from New Zealand holds Formula One's all-time record of laps led without having won a race. In his career, he led 183 laps but never claimed to win. New Mercedes driver George Russell has 59 laps led, but he does not have a win to his credit. With that said, he's the current leader in that particular club. He's way off of the mark. But he's also in much better equipment than his prior ride over at Williams, so I get the funny feeling Chris Amon's record probably will stand. And Lewis Hamilton's involved in one more, this time the number of podium finishes at your home race. He's tied with Alain Prost in this mark. Alain Prost had 11 wins at his home French Grand Prix. Hamilton currently has, or podium finishes, I should say. Hamilton currently has 11 podium finishes at his home race, the British Grand Prix. I'd be shocked, truthfully, if Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes couldn't get him a top 3 finish at the British Grand Prix this year.
That would be 2 of us.
Sure.
For sure.
This thing is an odd situation, but at the same point in time, I get where he's coming from. He wants to honor his mom. Sir Lewis Hamilton's going through the British court system. He wants to legally change his name. He wants to include his mother's maiden name in there. It is Larbalester. Larbalestier, whatever. Why, you might ask, after he's been so successful? Well, he told a crowd at the Dubai Expo Monday of this week, quote, "It would mean the world to my family to win an 8th title. It would mean a lot to me knowing that, for example, I'm really proud of my family's name, Hamilton, but none of you might know that my mom's name is Larbalester. And I'm just about to put that in my name. I don't fully understand the whole idea that when people get married that the woman loses her name. I really want my mom's name to continue on with the Hamilton name as well." Now, his parents, Father Anthony, Mother Carmen, split when he was young. Lewis was young. His mother later remarried, took on the name of her second husband. When he was asked what his full legal name will be when all is said and done, Hamilton replied he didn't exactly know. He said this, quote, "I don't know if it'll be this weekend, but we've been working on it." Again, isn't known when the change is going to take legally. And we, again, don't know exactly what the name is going to be when all is said and done. Thanks for confusing everybody, Lewis.
Dear Sky Sports, I'm sorry. The lead Sky Sports announcer is probably going to be losing his mind. You can't tell me that he won't.
Oh, I'm sure.
Lewis Labastier Hamilton. Sir Lewis.
Sir. Yeah.
Labastier Hamilton.
Make a big deal out of that. I would make a big deal out of that for the British Grand Prix, and otherwise I probably wouldn't mention it. I'll just be real honest with you.
True.
It's a news story. It's kind of a fluff story at the same time. And I get where he's coming from. I understand his desire to have his mother's name as part of this whole situation. I get it.
I get it as well.
But at the same point in time, there's a whole lot of bluster over this when, in all likelihood, I doubt seriously he's changing his official last name to this. It's going to be his middle name. I'd be shocked if it wasn't.
Yeah, it'll be one of those hyphenated things.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
So, and nobody's really going to start calling him Larbalestier. He's still going to be Lewis Hamilton. That's what we know him as. That's what we're going to call him.
Yeah.
Deal with it. Or don't. I don't care. It's up to you. Good luck.
Yeah. I'm not the biggest fan of Mercedes, but I'll say this. Toto, get your boy under control. Get your boy under control.
Good luck. When we come back, all right, so we had the breaking news. We'll reaffirm the breaking news when we come back because it is important to realize this, and it does kind of continue the fallout of what happened in the 2021 season finale. Stick around. The report just came out. We'll give you some of the details of it. It's a very long report, so we're not going to give you a whole lot of details. We'll give you some of it, and we'll tell you some of the backlash of this because new safety car rules have come out because of what happened in that race as well. Stay close. We got to take this one final break, and we'll come back, and we'll run all the way up to the top of the hour here on CRN.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. Fuel only, fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
We are back, and we're going to run straight up until 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Central Time here without a break. But first things first, if you're anywhere within the state of Alabama, you probably need to have a number or an email on hand because you're going to want to make sure that the foundation of what in all likelihood is the most expensive thing you're ever going to buy, your house, is in good shape. Because if it's not in good shape, you're going to want to get it fixed. Talking about Michael Hart, Knox Foundation Solutions, and especially when you consider the fact that we've had all the rain and the storms that we had this past week. And if you are in a flood-prone area, you know exactly how bad that can be. It's even worse to your foundation. call Michael, 205-362-6419, or email him, mike@oxfoundations.com, and set up an appointment, especially today. Today's going to be a beautiful day. This weekend's going to be a beautiful weekend. So between races, go outside, go take a look around your house. I mean, really take a look at your house. Don't just kind of glance at it and go, yeah, I need to weed eat. No, take a look at your house. If it's brick or it's concrete, see if there are cracks in it. Anywhere. Go down into the basement or the crawl space or the garage. Is it damp? Is it musty in there? Could mean that you might have cracks that you can't even see from the outside. That's where Michael comes in. He'll come in at the day and time that you guys set up, give you a no cost, no obligation, written foundation assessment.
That's my favorite part.
I know. No cost to you, no obligation to you. And it's in writing. Now, I'll be honest with you. No, there's no obligation. You don't have to use them. You can go, well, I'm going to go with this company over here. But why wouldn't you go with the people that treat you right? Because, as we have said, all three of us here have worked with Michael, both on the radio and off the radio. And we'll tell you that if Michael Hart comes to you and says, there's no problem with your house, there's no problem with your house. And he's going to be straight up about it. He's not going to invent a problem just to say, oh, there's a problem here, give me some money. He won't do that.
No,
That's not the kind of guy he is.
He's a very upstanding guy.
Also, if there is something wrong to the house and he puts it in writing and he hands it to you and explains it to you, you can take it to the bank. That's what's wrong with the house. But here's the fun part. Here's the fun part. Whatever price he quoted you, you can get an extra 15% off of that because you heard about this ad right here on the Championship Racing Network. You mentioned the promo code WEST. You get 15% off of that total.
Okay, I changed my mind. That's my favorite part.
So remember the promo code WEST. Remember this number, 205-362-6419. Remember the email, mike@oxfoundations.com. Go ahead, set up the appointment. You got nothing to lose. Again, no cost, no obligation to you. Get it figured out. Remember that promo code WEST for 15% off if there is a problem. All right, let's review the breaking news here from Formula One. Just came out not too long ago.
Yeah, it came out, let's see here, about 30 minutes ago.
Okay.
From the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the official report from the FIA has came out, and it's pretty much in a nutshell, there's no specific blame on any one person. And this report is so stinking long
Sure.
that I don't even know where to start a bullet point at.
Well, we won't. Because I think the biggest bullet point that you named there is the fact that they have a hard time placing a blame at anybody. We can place a blame on someone's foot, and that's Michael Massey. And here's the thing. Despite the fact that they're not really throwing him under the bus here, Michael Massey has lost his job as the Formula One race director. He's no longer in that role. They've pulled two people, one of them out of retirement, to fill that role over the course of the season. One's going to do some races, the other's going to do the rest of them.
Here's a big bullet point.
Okay.
There's point 14 and 15. At 23:22 local time, within 1 hour of the publication of the decision of the penultimate lap of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, see Article 15 of the International Sporting Code and Article 10.1.1 of the FIA Judicial and Disciplinary Rules. Mercedes notified the stewards in writing of its intention to appeal in respect to the stewards' decision regarding Article 48.12 protest.
Sure.
The deadline for lodging this appeal before the FIA International Court of Appeal was December 16th, 2021 at 8:22 p.m. European time. Let's call it that.
Sure.
Mercedes did not submit a notification of appeal by the deadline.
Oh, gosh. That's really their biggest hang-up?
But rather publicly confirmed that it was withdrawing its appeal. They never submitted an appeal, but they reported they were withdrawing an appeal. Gotcha.
Sure. So, anyway, and if you watched, especially the last episode of this current season of Netflix's F1 Drive to Survive, which we'll get back to, it really does deal with this particular situation, and it does get somewhat behind the scenes of how that all came about. And because of this, the FIA, number one, has removed Michael Massey from the job of F1 race director, and number two, they've changed the safety car rules. So you can't tell me
right
that someone's not to blame here. you're blaming someone without naming him. I hate to tell you this, folks. We'll name him.
You want an outsider opinion on this?
By the way, by all means.
It appears to me that FIA does not want to blame anyone, but yet Massey has lost his position, and he's nowhere to be seen.
That's under nothing but Mercedes pressure.
Yeah, I would say
regardless.
Yeah.
But at the same point in time.
So Massey's been swept under the rug
Yeah,
as a dirty little secret.
He's the fall guy. He's the scapegoat.
He's the problem. He's the issue. He's the one to blame.
Yeah, he's
They
the
just don't
scapegoat
wanna
in this
say
particular
that.
situation.
Yeah, they don't want to say that.
Now, all of this goes back to, and again, if you watch the last episode of Netflix's F1 Drive to Survive, you know this, but for those of you that either don't have it or haven't watched it, spoiler alert. Michael Massey noted and said this. At first, he didn't feel like that there was enough room on the last safety car lap to be able to clear the lapped cars. So initially, his ruling is to keep the lapped cars, and there were 5 of them, between Lewis Hamilton, first place, and second place, Max Verstappen. Considering it was a one-lap shootout, that could have made all the difference in the world. I don't care how fresh and how soft Max Verstappen's tires are. He has to get past now not just one car in Lewis Hamilton. He has to get past 5 lap cars just to get to Lewis Hamilton.
Right.
Which is no guarantee. Then Michael Massey switches. He changes his mind and he tells the lapped cars to go around Lewis Hamilton. But those 5 cars weren't the only 5 cars one lap down.
Correct.
There were cars that were behind Max Verstappen that were also lap down cars. When one of those drivers, I can't remember which one right offhand, it might have been Daniel Ricciardo, but I may be wrong on that. When they asked, are we clear to go around as well? They were told no.
Here, it was in here, all of the lap cars. It's in here. Let me find it.
Now, who made that decision?
Massey.
Here's all the lap cars at the time: Norris, Alonso, Ocon, Leclerc, Vettel.
I think it was Norris because it was one of the McLaren cars. So if it wasn't Ricciardo, it had to have been Norris.
Ricciardo was a lap car. Stroll was a lap car. Mick Schumacher was a lap car.
Okay, I know it was one of the orange. I know it was one of the orange McLaren cars. So it was either Ricciardo or Norris. I can't remember which one. Asked for clarification on whether or not they could pass. Again, we're talking about the cars that were behind Verstappen, not between Hamilton and Verstappen, but behind Verstappen. Those were told no. Only the 5 cars between Hamilton and Verstappen can pass.
The 3 behind Verstappen were Ricciardo, Stroll, Schumacher.
So it was Ricciardo.
Yep.
That situation put Mercedes team boss, the aforementioned Toto Wolff, into an apoplectic fit.
You wonder why.
When he found out that the 5 cars were going to be allowed to go around, but not the others. He felt it was very, very wrong. And by the way, this is one of those episodes where, and all the episodes, quite frankly, are not family friendly. So there are a lot of words flying around, and Toto Wolff used a few of them in that particular situation.
Quite a few.
And he told on the radio, because every team has the ability to talk to both of their drivers. In this case, Toto Wolff, the team boss, has the ability to talk separately to Lewis Hamilton and to Valtteri Bottas at that time, because he was still running for Mercedes at that point in time. So he can talk to him separately. He could talk to both of his drivers together. He's also got a separate button where he can talk directly to race control and talk directly to Michael Massey. And he got on and he told Michael Massey, this is wrong and you need to fix it. But Michael Massey didn't do anything about it. He let the whole thing go on. So, again, Massey loses his job from this, and now the FIA made a change to the safety car rules. As announced on Tuesday, this new rule stipulates something that, quite frankly, should have been clear before. It replaces the word any with the word all. So, in other words, any lapped cars must unlap themselves before restart. There was some, let's just say, play in that, which allowed Massey to say, well, we're only going to send these 5. In this case, and quite frankly, it should have been this way beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to let one go, you let them all go.
True. Very true.
If you're only going to send a few, you don't send any. All or none, folks. If you're not going to send one lap car to go around and unlap themselves, you don't send any of them. Period. End of sentence. You either do it all or you don't do any. And that's the clarification now.
And it rightfully should be.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. In the initial wording of it, if I'm the race director and I read any lapped cars must unlap themselves before restart, I would have read that
right
to believe that if they're a lap down and I'm going to let all, I'm going to let all unlapped or lapped cars unlap themselves.
Yeah.
But somehow Michael Massey gets the interpretation wrong, so they have to go back and they have to clarify it.
Yeah, that's just a CYA move, I think.
In a lot of ways, I think you're right.
You're exactly right.
So
that's an excuse, shall we say?
Yeah.
Passing the buck.
Yeah. Anyway, so like I said, the wording apparently makes this an all cars or no cars situation, just like it should have been before. All right. Over at Haas F1, team principal Gunther Steiner reports that there has been quote-unquote good interest, those are his words, not mine, from potential sponsors that will fill the role that Ural Kali held through the 2021 season. Gene Haas, the team owner, admits that he may have to dig into his own pockets a little bit more for the team this season without a major sponsor, but he does insist that the team will be able to get through this season with no money problems. Steiner added this, quote, there is good interest at the moment, I must say. I don't know what it has to do with. I'm not promising anything. I think with the sponsorship, we started a little bit late in actually trying to get some actively from the beginning. It's my opinion about it. But I think now we will make progress. I'm very confident. And also, again, showing people that now from the offseason, we talked about it all last year about how Haas basically punted on the 2021 season, getting prepared for this year because they knew that there were new regulations coming in, so they didn't want to spend all that money on parts and cars that were effectively going to be out of date come 2022.
Right.
So they concentrated entirely on 2022. You talked about FP3, and Mick Schumacher was about 14th, kind of pedestrian, but our replacement for Nikita Mazepin, which is Kevin Magnussen, he's back, which we talked about that last week. In FP3, he was top 10 in the final practice session.
He was.
So the performance has definitely picked up. Here's everybody's question. This is an American-based team. They've got 2 home bases. All the cars basically are set up over in England, right around the Silverstone track where the British Grand Prix is held. But if you go to North Carolina and you go to the Stewart-Haas Racing compound, you'll notice there is a building in that same little cul-de-sac where Stewart-Haas Racing is located that has a big label on the building called Haas F1.
Quite a big one.
Oh, yeah, it's a sizable building. So what about a U.S.-based sponsor? Steiner was blunt. Despite the increasing interest in the series in America, Steiner said, quote, it's just difficult in America to get this big sponsorship in the moment. Not only difficult for Formula One, but if you look also at racing series in the States, there is sponsorship, but not really a big one. In NASCAR in the old days, one car was running the full livery or paint scheme all year, the full year. There's not many cars doing that at the moment because it's just a lot of money. He's talking about NASCAR. Formula One's that much more. Again, top flight team, $25 million. Probably an easy guess. If you're a Hendrick team, Stewart-Haas Racing team, Team Penske, your cars are probably about $20 to $25 million a year outlay. That's why you're seeing multiple sponsors over the course of that time, because no one company wants to take on that big of a bite. So they all kind of split it up. Formula One's worse. Even with a salary cap, I use the term salary cap loosely. even with a cap on the amount of spending that these teams can do per car, we're still talking about give or take $150 million per car.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but if I'm a little bit loath to spend $25 million on a NASCAR car, I'm really going to balk at giving you a $150 million check. So I get it. But again, we're not asking you to foot the entire bill, but we are asking you to, hey, come out. And a lot of people have been wondering why we can't get the American team with an American-based sponsor. Haas F1 doesn't have an answer, but apparently McLaren does. Because there was a sponsor signing this past week, and it involves a U.S.-based company. It's Google, to be specific. They signed on not with Haas F1, but they signed on with McLaren. Go figure that. Multi-year partnership puts the company's name and logo on all the cars and the race helmets of the two drivers. It also extends to McLaren's entry in that electric off-road series that's called Extreme E, which we don't cover. No financial details were given, and it does not appear that the deal is for a title sponsorship either. So it's still going to be the McLaren racing team. Google's just going to be a major sponsor. Why didn't Google go to Haas F1?
I don't know. That was kind of puzzling.
Or why didn't Haas F1 maybe go to Google? I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at it from the wrong angle. I don't know.
Good question.
Time will tell. Saudi Arabia debuted on the Formula One calendar just last year. That's part of a long-term 15-year contract to run Formula One in Saudi Arabia. The track that F1 raced on back in December is called the Jeddah Circuit. It has been named as the host for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix for the next 4 years. But that being said, it will not be the long-term host of that particular race because the country's building a permanent Formula One facility in the city of Qiddiya. This is a planned resort city, which is going to be about an hour away from the capital of Saudi Arabia, Riyadh. Qiddiya, country officials are saying, is part of a strategy which will help open up the country to travel and, they hope, ease some of their traditional social restrictions. You mean like making women wear hijabs and walk a step behind males?
Yeah.
Good luck.
Tell me about it.
I don't think that's going away anytime too soon, but we'll see. Then we go back to the critically acclaimed and popular Netflix series Formula One Drive to Survive. It does have its critics, and a few of them are within Formula One themselves. One of them, Red Bull driver Sergio Perez. Perez said this week that he might not actually participate in the next season. He feels that the series has, quote, probably gone too far, unquote, in dramatizing the 2021 year. Well, it is a production. It's kind of what they do. While popular, in fact, since its release on March 11th, the current season has become the most watched program in 33 different countries. And it is also credited with putting Formula One into United States eyes, which had been something really overly difficult in the few decades of trying before that. The downside comes from people, mostly, again, within Formula One, who claim that the series is manufacturing drama. In other words, they're creating rivalries among drivers where really a rivalry doesn't exist in real life. Perez said this, quote, I really thought that they had the best season in Formula One to work with, and I feel like they probably missed out a bit on the stories and the way that they presented it. He added that the raw footage of the 2021 season could have been edited in such a way that it didn't create drama, but it could still be entertaining to the viewer. Adding, quote, they tried to create too much drama, which the season already had, you know? They've probably gone too far in this last season. I thought it was going to be the best season, to be totally honest with you. I haven't finished watching it.
I haven't either.
See, I ripped through it. I loved it. I thought it was great. But yeah. I do see where he's coming from. To me, though, instead of taking your ball and going home, you're one of the guys on the inside. You're one of 20 guys on the inside. Well, really, 30. 20 drivers and 10 team principals. You're one of 30 guys who the series is really going to concentrate on. You have the ability to change this from the inside out. Don't just quit. Work to change it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to see that, change it, like you just said.
Yeah, you have a very unique power to have an influence over how this show, how this series, how those 10 episodes are presented to the public. Throw your weight around. I don't see why you wouldn't.
Something.
Instead, I guess it's easier to take your ball and go home. I don't know. Finally, let's take a look really at Formula E, and they are currently in season number 7. They won't race again until next month, but While in season number 7, Formula E is already looking ahead. How far ahead? So they've been working on the 3rd generation of race cars, which is set to debut in season number 9. They have a prototype ready. It is one that's considered to be about 90%, if not more, of what you can expect when they officially debut on track in race form for season number 9, 2 years from now. And they will be officially presented to the teams and to the public about a month from now, April the 28th, the weekend of the Monaco E-Prix. Formula E CEO Jamie Reigl said of this new car, quote, Formula E's Gen 3 race car represents a leap forward for motorsport and electric mobility, designed to demonstrate that high performance, efficiency, and sustainability can be packaged together without compromise. The Gen 3 is our most powerful, lightest, and fastest race car to date. We'll get back to that. We look forward to finally taking the covers off the Gen 3 in Monaco, a location steeped in motor racing history, and see the car light up city streets around the world in the next season when it races. To date are the 2 words that I want to stick with, because that tells me that the Gen 4 car, they're going to be seeking to go even lighter and yet even more powerful. That's the trend that they're going forward, right?
Yeah.
Editorial time. I get that a lot of these car companies are trying to go all electric. Okay? Good luck to you. Because I got news for you. The infrastructure in the United States of America is not ready for it.
Nope.
Sorry, we're not. You think about it. There are some 200 to 220 million cars on the road in the United States right now. Talking about registered, legal to go onto the street right now.
Right, yeah.
If you were to replace all of those with all electric cars, and we go to bed at night and we plug those things in, we're going to down the system. How do I know? We already have states like California and even New York State to some extent doing brownouts during the summertime without having all the electric cars already there.
Yeah.
This is why when our president talked about doing a situation with the United States Postal Service where they could go all electric, the people at the post office looked at the situation and said, no. And of the cars and vehicles that they're going to buy over the next couple of years, 95% of those vehicles for the U.S. Postal Service will be gas or diesel powered. We don't have the infrastructure yet to handle it. Number one. Number two is a very expensive technology. Have you priced an electric car lately? It ain't cheap. It's more expensive than the gas-powered cars that you can go buy at your local dealer.
Considerably more expensive.
Costs less to fix, though.
Until you have to replace the battery pack. And when you have to replace the battery
Still
pack...
costs less to fix. Overall.
No, it doesn't. Have you priced a battery pack? Go look at a Tesla battery pack. It's going to run you big time. Plus, you have to figure out what you're going to do with those battery packs that you took out, which we don't have the infrastructure to deal with that either. We got problems. Can they be fixed? Yes. We're a long way from doing it. Something to watch, though.
Yep.
Speaking of watching, you and I are headed to Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of a teaser in on this truck practice right now. This is intriguing.
We're going to deal with that a little bit more on a quick fire after the show. For those of you that want to know where it is, go on to YouTube, look up CRN Live. Subscribe there. We'll let you know when we're on, and we'll do an after the show coming up here in just a couple of moments. For those of you listening on our flagship station, thank you for checking us out. Join us again next week right here on the Championship Racing Network.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
WDNG 1450 AM.
And W236CQ 95.1 FM Anniston.
The new 95.1. The Mountain.
You already know Sylacauga Marine and ATV is the area's #1 choice for Tracker, Sun Tracker, and Regency pontoons, Nitro bass boats, Tahoe runabout and sports boats, and Mako offshore saltwater sport and inshore fishing boats. But did you know about the all-new line of